So I've been on holiday in Boston. It's the winter time right now, so it's been snowing. I just wanted to talk about my trip. So I'm going to talk about a few things that I've painted, or that I'm painting on the screen, but I'm also just going to talk about my trip in general. So overall, when I first got here, the first thing that really confused me was just the airport. Trying to catch an Uber from Boston Airport is it's a real task for someone who's never been there, because they have 3 different pickup points and multiple areas that you could confuse for a pickup point. And I was downstairs with where they were doing Lyft and other sorts of rides, and I had to the first driver cancelled on me because I was lost and I couldn't find where they were. And then, although I got some advice as to where to go, it was still difficult to find where I needed to go. But I managed to catch an Uber, which was good. So the first thing that I'm painting here is the Paul Revere wax crayon set. It's from the time where I went to I did the State House and the Paul Revere Museum on the same day. The Paul Revere Museum was actually really, really good. I recommend it. I was able to ask questions about the American Revolution and just how it all built up. Paul Revere himself is most famous for the Midnight Ride. He was an artisan, someone who worked with copper and silver. He created weapons for the war, but he's most known for his Midnight Ride. The Midnight Ride was to warn John Hancock and Samuel Adams of the incoming warrant for their arrest, and the fact that the British troops were coming, so he had to warn the Minutemen to be prepared for a fight. Yeah, this kind of all blew up after tensions from Britain taxing the American colonies in terms of trade, sometimes also taking their merchant ships. But the Americans got fed up of it at one point, and they had the Boston Tea Party, which isn't necessarily a party. It's when England had sent tea across to America that they were going to tax them on if they received the tea. And those boats had been waiting in that harbour for a long time, and the people of the new colonies decided enough was enough. They were gonna throw the tea into the Boston River and get rid of the evidence. And Paul Revere is also someone who was active in this as well, as one of the leaders. The 4 and the heart shape, the EIC stands for the Indian Trading Company, and the flower in the middle is like the symbol that they had on the boxes. One of the boxes was found, and it was passed down through family generation after generation after generation until it came to be in the museum. But that's Paul Revere. He's actually quite a cool character, and it was really cool to see the Revere house, because you feel more free to ask questions, and it gives you an impression of what houses looked like at the time. So yeah, the next thing I'm drawing is I'm painting is a pigeon. And this is just because there was a pigeon that came on the train, and he munched a few bits, going, I'll have that, I'll take that, and then he got off after 2 stops. It was like he was It was like he was one of us. Yeah, but yeah, that's why I decided to paint a pigeon. I just found it funny. Yeah, another thing that I really enjoyed, and this is moving on to the Boston Tea Party Museum, but just that they enacted as if it was back in that time. So they gave us different cards depicting who we were. I was a merchant who'd been taxed and now it was time to rise up. And they do all this old English town crying. They're like, hear ye, meeting in the Eastern Hall. And one of the things that you'd say if you agree back in those days was, hear, hear. And so there are two of them by the Eastern Hall that shouted, hear, hear. It was just really funny. It's a good laugh. But it's also it's really fun to get immersed in the story. During the time of the Boston Tea Party, they disguised themselves as North Americans, got on the boat and threw off the tea. They would have the people who were like the working class, so silversmiths, blacksmiths, artisans. The people who were stronger, they would lift the boxes, put it onto a pulley system. It would come up to those who were just everyday normal citizens. They'd throw the boxes into the Boston River, and the smaller people, those of 15 or younger ages, would be in the river stomping down the tea leaves and getting rid of the evidence. And it would have been icy cold, like freezing river. So I can't imagine they had a great time. But yeah, I found that interesting. There's also another fact that there was one person who tried to brag about being part of it, who was just an observer, and he almost got himself put in prison, ready to hang. But because there weren't two witnesses to witness about what he was saying, he got let off. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the Boston Tea Party Museum. That was one of my favorites. Another favorite is actually just the ice cream museum. This is like a side note. But if you ever get the chance, the two things I'd recommend to do in Boston that you won't be disappointed with are the Boston Tea Party Museum and the ice cream museum, because the ice cream museum had the same kind of energy, and rather than Boston tea, it was ice cream. Yeah, the people are just really funny, and you get to learn all sorts of amazing different facts about ice cream, like the fact that they had an ice cream back in the day called the penny lickings, that you'd be able to lick for a penny and then they'd wash it out. The fact that premium ice cream apparently tastes better because it has less air in it, whereas non-premium ice cream has more air in it. And also premium ice cream just seems to have more of a balance of air, ice, fat and sugar. But yeah, the ice cream museum I can't recommend enough. It's just really funny, really unique. I would also say really quirky as well. So the teacup is to represent the Battle of Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill is a monument that was put up in memory of those who fought during the Battle of Bunker Hill. This was a time at which British troops were approaching Boston. The militia of Boston, or the people who organised themselves into an army front, well, they were meant to assemble at Bunker Hill, they didn't assemble at Bunker Hill. They found themselves on another hill that they fortified, and they fought the English troops. English troops attacked 3 times. They had to retreat because they ran out of ammunition, so the English troops won the battle in the end. However, they had a greater casualty cost on the English side than the American side. And so it served as an inspiration for those in the American colonies that they really could stand up against the British oppression and the British rule. But also led to the British becoming more cautious in terms of planning attacks. Yeah, so that's the Bunker Hill Monument. If you hear the loud banging, it's the cats outside. But yeah, the Bunker Hill Monument was actually really fun to go to. There's a tower of 294 steps. And initially when I asked the man inside if I could climb the tower, he was like, well, you can climb it, but your body won't thank you for doing it. And so I did climb it. By step 100, the heart was beating fast. By step 200, I was like, oh, I wonder where the end is. And by 294 steps, you're just happy that you made it to the top. But yeah, after that, my legs were just wobbly. It was a really good day. A really, really good day out. I really enjoyed both. I did both the Bunker Hill Museum and the USS Constitution Museum on that day. So I really enjoyed both of them, but Bunker Hill was my favourite on that day. Just up top is like the statue of Dorothea Dix. This was when I went to the State House, but they don't just have stuff to memorialize USS governors and people of political power, but they also have statues that memorialize the women who were around at the time, working as nurses, advocating for education. Yeah, because women played an important role at every level during that time. There were some women who dressed as men who served in both armies. There were some women who worked as spies or scouts, like Elizabeth Lewis, who had a network of spies. Yeah, women who worked as nurses, administrators, matrons, teachers in factories, and as political leaders as well. So, the woman specifically in the statue in the top right corner is Dorothea Dix. Dorothea Dix was someone who advocated for the betterment of mental health institutions, and during her lifetime she worked in a prison for those of mental health, but there were also other people as well that she saw in prisons, because the prison conditions were cramped, damp, unhygienic, and there was also a lot of abuse of power. People were abused sexually and physically, and they weren't treated in a humane way. And so Dorothea Dix is someone who documented all these things and brought it up and to an audience, and so she managed to advocate for the betterment of these prisons and the conditions of these prisons they're in. Yeah, she also did the same sort of thing moving to Europe, seeing the difference between private healthcare and public healthcare, which led to, forgotten his name, I feel like it was Pope Pius or something like that. He made a hospital or a facility for the mentally ill in regards to her report. Yeah, she worked as a nurse in the war. She worked as a superintendent of army nurses. She worked alongside people like Lisa Alcott and Eddie Ballou. After the war, she worked on advocating for those of mental health, and she returned working with those who are mentally ill. Yeah, she was born in 1802 and she died in 1887. But yeah, that's Dorothea Dix, the person in the top right. Yeah, but I've actually really enjoyed my trip. I can't sing its praises enough, being able to hang out with family, being able to see people I haven't seen for a long time. Yeah, but the next video will be back to the anatomy series. Yeah, my watercolor isn't the greatest. I'm still trying to improve it, so if it looks bad, it's a work in progress. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening. Hopefully you guys are having a good week, and we'll be back to the anatomy series next week.